Australia has a brand new star representative. Competing for country has been a lifelong goal, and finally, at the age of 40, Joe Ward got there. Born a Brit, Australia became Joe's home 12 years ago. He's the founder and owner of the Manly Beach Running Club, has completed countless ultra-endurance events, all of them incredible feats, but nothing quite like recently taking out the Australian 24-hour Track Invitational. As it sounds, it requires racking up as many kilometres as possible around a 400-metre track in one full day from one morning to the next. Joe Ward clocked up 239.5 kilometres at the Australian Institute of Sport Athletics track in Canberra on the 26th of July 2020 in driving rain and expectedly cold conditions. He smashed it, taking out the event to become national champion. He was supposed to take on this 24-hour challenge months earlier, but the COVID lockdown interfered. So imagine training incredibly hard and intricately, only to have to put it all on hold. He overcame absurd adversity. How does one even train for such a ridiculous race? What goes through mind and body as you cover the same 400-metre stretch of track literally all day? What do you eat? How often? Are there toilet breaks? I've got so many questions. So let's get some answers. I'm Phil Pryor, formerly the podcast lead at Fox Sports Australia. This is Pryor to Post, a new platform where I may look to share more great stories down the track. But for now, it's just one, Joe Ward's ultra achievement. Now don't worry, there's no plan to clog your feed with regular episodes anytime soon, so please feel free to hit subscribe and share this story because it's one that we all need to know. So let's go. Joe Ward, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, mate. Pleasure.
Now, the race happened just over a week ago. How are you feeling now? We're gonna obviously go right back. We're gonna look at the preparation, certain areas of that as well. But let's start at the top. How's your body now? Is it fully recovered?
I'm running again, which is good. So I'm running pain-free. I'm back in training. I'm getting some sessions from my coach, so I feel pretty good. Still on a high, I think, still buzzing. I mean, it could be the coffee. I've had 3 coffees today, so that helps as well. But
I hope you enjoy that, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. I didn't realise you're a barista as well. This is fantastic. This is the best black coffee I've had for a long time.
That's great.
So I think that, I'm still just so surprised at the result, pleasantly surprised, and in a really good place, really happy that the day unfolded the way it did, and I felt strong towards the end. I ran the race the way I wanted, so yeah, still on a massive high.
It finished on a Sunday morning. How long did it take for things to get back to normal? Obviously, you missed a night of sleep, then you had to get in a car and drive back from Canberra to Sydney. You didn't try and run with the Manly Beach Running Club, which you own and help to manage as well. You didn't try and get up Monday morning and run with them, did you?
I was up. I was there for the sunrise and there for the positive energy. But I didn't run, and I didn't run for a few days. I tried to sort of ease back into it with walking, and that's one of the things I've learned throughout this training block over the last 9 months with my awesome coach Martin Fry, is that moving is super powerful. Like the running thing is just, if you were to describe what running is, it's the push off the ground game. And really, if you're walking and you're moving, it's the same game. So doing some walking Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I think my first run was actually Friday after the race, so Thursday or Friday.
That's sensible.
Yeah, well, I had to pace a marathon runner on Saturday. So I had to pace my awesome first-time marathon runner, Joe Thompson, on Saturday morning. So I had to kind of get my legs working and be able to run 10K and talk at the same time. So yeah, running on Friday was really to kickstart Saturday and to get everything flowing again and get the endorphins in my brain. But I've been lucky, I haven't got any sort of major niggles. So Yeah, like I feel like the training block was so perfect that my body has adapted and I've recovered really fast. And again, that's testament to everything that my coach Martin has taught me. That I finished the race and I'm, pretty much straight back into training with another event at the end of August.
Wow. So listeners that don't know you will be wondering, you've just qualified for the Australian Aussie 24-hour team, which are called the Emus. There is a slightly English accent there, though. So
Little bit.
Can you explain that for us?
So I've been here for 12 years now and fell in love with Australia when I first came here back in 2008. And I've wanted to be Australian for a long time. I wanted to represent Australia. The dream of representing a country has been with me for a long time as well. And this is the country that I've chosen. I was born in the UK, and that was, not my choice. I was just, born to my lovely family. And being in Australia, this is the country that I've chosen to live in. I think this is one of the best countries in the world. So I feel very privileged to be in the sort of vitamin D soaked northern beaches of Sydney. It's a pretty awesome place to live. And I feel a lot of gratitude for being adopted by this country, for having my Aussie passport. And although this accent doesn't sound like a true blue, I'm gradually, I can say you, and I can speak through my nose a little bit. I'm never going to be that kind of proper Ocker Aussie, but this is what Northern Beaches Aussies sound like.
And you were able to adopt the she'll be right attitude for about 23 and a half hours in the race as well.
Yeah, look, I've learned to be more of a hippie in my training and be more relaxed and, to find that headspace where you're most productive, which is that kind of Aussie, she'll be all right, it'll all be good kind of manana sort of attitude, and just being at peace with, what my body is doing through that process.
Yeah, you mentioned there one of your life goals has been to represent your country. Congratulations, you've now finally got there. Talk us through that.
Yeah, so I was talking about this morning over a coffee with my friend Dan, and it runs quite deep as an athlete that's been running for a number of years. You think back to all your heroes when you're a kid, and I'm sure you can empathise with this as well, Phil. You've got your favourite athletes, and you remember those moments on the pitch or on the court or wherever your athletes play their sport. And for me, thinking back to, it runs quite deep. It runs deeper than I thought it did. So 1990 Italia World Cup, Paul Gascoigne, Gary Lineker, Gary Lineker pointing at the coach saying that, oh, watch out for him, Gascoigne, Paul Gascoigne's crying. So the kind of gazetteers, and, I've played sport my whole life. So there's a lot of heroes that have inspired me and made me want to, push towards that sort of state and national level. So there was a little opportunity here to do something that I felt I had some good abilities with, which is run long and hopefully get into that EMU team. With the qualifier that I have, fingers and toes crossed, that's going to get me into the next event, whenever that is. It's just a lot of your dreams and ambitions on the surface, it looks like they are very rational and very recent and very kind of, I think until you achieve them, you don't realise how badly you wanted those dreams. So there's a sort of 10-year-old version of me that's back in 1990 watching that game of soccer, watching the World Cup, and is like very pleased and very satisfied, deeply satisfied that I've had such a good race and that things have lined up to give me this opportunity. And it was a little bit of light, a little crack in the door. Like I've been knocking on the door of the Australian team and the 24-hour stuff for 3 or 4 years now. And it started off as like a no, and then it was like a no, and then it was sort of like a no, but keep trying, keep going. And then, in recent months and years, it's been a lot of encouragement from a lot of people I respect. Brendan Davies at Up Coaching called me at the start of this year and just it gave me a lot of encouragement So a lot of phone calls saying, look, it's a no, you've applied for the Australian team, and it's a definite no, but this year it's a no, but keep going. So that's been an ongoing process, and actually quite a satisfying journey, because you want it to be challenging, you want it to be difficult. Like, you don't want to just be handed something on a plate. And the things that I'm going off on a tangent here, but the things that you don't get handed on a plate, the things that feel impossible, on the other side of that impossible is the best feeling in the world. So yeah, I just feel like this is, it's timely, and it's come at the right time, and it's a perfect time this year to have some good news for a change. 2020 is full of bad news for a lot of people, but it's also timely that it's taken quite a long time to get here. I've been running long distances for a number of years. My first ultra was in 2009. So it's almost like a 10, 11 year journey, and then, 12 years in Australia. So it's a culmination of a lot of things put together, and that's something I said at the end of the race, when I had a camera in my face and they were like, how do you feel? It was like, oh, this is just so many things all put together, and the 10-year-old dreams, and the coming to Australia in my late 20s, and the COVID kind of craziness, and all these things have come together, and it's I'm really proud of it. So yeah.
Can you run through some of the previous events that you've done, long distance events, and events that us mere mortals find completely ridiculous, and also maybe then just tie that into when, for you thought, actually, it's the 24-hour event that I really want to, target?
Yeah, so, I've run 45, 50 marathons, and I've been running marathons since 2006. I ran my first 45K at the 6-foot track in 2009, first 100K in 2010, first 100 miles in 2012, and I've run 100 miles about 12 times now.
Wow.
And then I've done the 240K at the Coast of Kosciuszko, which has just come back for this December, which is really exciting for the Australian running community to have the Coast of Kosci back. So I've run that 3 times. I've run from Newcastle to Sydney 3 times, which is 276, non-stop obviously. And, I've run from Brisbane to Sydney in 2016. So, I've been running long distances and multi-day events and running through the night several times now. I won the GNW 100 miles in 2018, and that was a massive, result for that year. That was, something I've been working towards for a number of years. So yeah, the long distance thing is something I've really enjoyed. There's a real magic about running through the night. I'm a bit of an insomniac anyway, so it's quite a natural thing for me to run through the night and then hear the birds start chirping and the sun comes up. There's something incredible about running through the day and then through the night. It really, really inspires you to connect with nature and connect with that deeper part of yourself that you can't quite put to words. And I think that's a problem with talking about a lot of this stuff, is I'm probably not going to do it justice. I'm probably not going to say exactly how I feel about it and put it in a way that is understandable, because it just sounds crazy. But when you experience this stuff, when you do go through the night, when you do hear the birds and see the sunrise, my goodness, there are some unseen forces there. There's some, invisible stuff going on that is just so addictive. So it really is a drug, and it really is something quite special, especially when you share it with other runners. When you've got a pacer there, or you've got other competitors there, and you're like, look at us, we ran all the way through the night, and now it's the new day. You actually see us a lot on Manly Beach, and obviously spending a lot of time on Manly Beach as I do, I see the sunrise most days. And once you experience that once or twice, and once you run through the night and have those emotions and thoughts and that connection with the world around you, it's fun.
That's your driving force, I suppose.
Yeah, performing well is fun, but the unseen stuff that you can't put into words, you know, other ultra runners understand that stuff, and I'm sure other athletes appreciate that. Imagine if you're kayaking and the sun comes up, it's a similar kind of, you know, the same kind of experience, the same feeling.
I think even I can, I've done a couple of runs down at the Manly Beach Running Club, and my partner just about has to drag me out of bed to get up at just after 5 a.m. But running across that other side of the lagoon, there's literally not a sound to be heard, and it's just it's a unique experience.
Yeah. And I actually think that part of the quality of that is being slightly sleepy. When you're kind of in that half awake, half asleep state, it's a real kind of meditative, magical thing. And you can explain it to people till you're blue in the face. You can say to people, just get up at 5, come for a run at 5:30, we'll finish at 6:30. You'll feel completely different. You know, so it's hard to put that into words, but there's an isness that it just is about that stuff that is a beautiful way to start your day. That's our best-selling product at Manly Beach Running Club, is how to start your day with beauty and connection and sunrise and the occasional wow if you're lucky.
Speaking of meditative, but perhaps not magical, this event, the 24-hour track, you ended up running 240 kilometers, but rather than doing the coast to Kosciuszko, you did it around the same 400-meter track for 24 hours. That's the part which I really can't wrap my head around. There must have been a hell of a lot of meditation and mental preparation involved in being able to put yourself through that.
Yeah, look, I learned how to meditate from two running friends, my friend Robin Yates, and then my other friend Luca Torini, two awesome athletes. Luca in particular, you know, he's got some serious achievements, but you know, my friend Robin is super chilled and super calm, and you know, really got me into a daily practice of meditation. You know, a lot of the discomfort that we feel, I think, is the resistance to whatever we're doing. And what I had to learn with the 400-meter track over the last couple of years is just to remove that resistance and just, you know, what my coach calls, what Martin Fry calls, love and surrender. So if you love it, then there's no resistance. So I felt a lot of connection to the people that were following back home, you know, not just in Australia, but in the UK as well. I was getting regular messages from my mum and my dad, and, you know, even though I'm 40, I still want my mum and my dad's approval, of course. You know, it's a powerful thing. And, like, I think you take to the track whatever you have already. The track doesn't give you, you know, a bad emotion or a negative thought. It's like you only take what you take with you. So I tried to arrive at that track, meditated, calm, rested, hydrated, hypnotized. You know, I had all this crazy stuff from my coach that was this 1% folder in Final Surge, and he was pointing me towards all this like binaural sounds of the ocean for 30 minutes and just getting myself in a super relaxed place. And it was just all that flow state stuff where it was happening. This is happening. And then breaking the race down, you know, there were so many aspects to the strategy of my race. Like I was so confident in my coach's ability to break it down for me and set the pace and let me know what to do, that it was just all, I'm flowing to 240, I'm going to 240, I'm going to 240, forgetting about what everyone else was doing around me. And
so that was your goal, 240?
Absolutely, yeah. I knew I could do 240. I knew I could hit that target, and you know, I was 488 meters off or whatever it was. But I'll take it. It's fine. As close as damn it. And you know, I had a lot of things line up to get to that total that maybe if they weren't there would have prevented me from getting there. So I'm very grateful for all those different things that lined up at the last minute. You know, John Yoon was kicking my ass in Victoria, and without him catching me up with 2 hours to go and, you know, being 1.5k behind me, and then a couple of laps later he was only a k behind me. I think without that race at 22 hours to 24, which is crazy, you know, I really didn't want to race in the last 2 hours. Without John Yoon pushing me, who's an Aussie rep athlete and a weapon, I don't know if I'd have hit that total, I'm pretty confident that I wouldn't have had the sort of the enthusiasm and the desire to keep pushing. But yeah, like you go to the track and you put yourself in a place where you are as much in that productive flow state as you can. And yeah, like if you're going to worry about things, if you're going to, get anxious about stuff, then, that's going to make it a very long 24 hours. If you start thinking about negative emotions, negative thoughts, what can go wrong, then you're stuffed.
Yeah.
You're going to be coming out of that race pretty early.
Was there a moment, we'll get to the race soon, but just sticking with the preparation, Joe, was there you've told me some crazy things, so I can go into detail for you if you're having trouble thinking of something specific, but do you have one specific moment in preparation that was just more crazy than anything else where, I remember that, look, the other day you were saying part of what your coach Martin Fry had you doing was running under a certain heart rate.
Yeah.
Is there something around that you can tell us?
Yeah, look, it's been fascinating to me that, when I first started that zone 2 training, which is low heart rate, endurance training, a lot of my paces back in December, January.
Can you explain the heart rate thing for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So you've got zones to your heart rate training, and your endurance heart rate is that zone 2, which is an extremely low heart rate. So if you look on your heart rate monitor, it will say easy. So it's just below aerobic. And it's quite frustrating to sit in that heart rate zone because you're obviously not
you have to go slow enough to keep your heart rate under a certain...
Yeah. So
what was the heart rate?
So for me, it's like 130, 129, 135, somewhere around there. And generally, it's sort of part of what's called maffetone training. So you can work out where that is by taking 220 minus your age and then work out your max heart rate and your zones, or you can do it in a more detailed way. But generally, for most people, if you can float around 130-ish, that's your zone 2, 135, even 140. So I spent a lot of time in that kind of very uncomfortable heart rate zone. Not uncomfortable in terms of intensity, but uncomfortable in terms of just feeling like I'm slow all the time.
And boredom, I suppose.
And bored.
So you literally had mums with their prams overtaking you.
That's right, yeah. So, as we discussed before, I'm running on the beachfront and used to overtaking people. Yeah. And I had these mums in activewear, Northern Beaches mums looking very glamorous, pushing their pram with 2 kids in, kicking my ass because and I'm forced to keep looking at my watch going, oh, I can't go faster than this. So my coach created that discipline around what is a truly easy pace. So as much as us runners and athletes want to push, that's a very happy, very normal place for us, is to push and to be a mongrel and to go. He taught me to be that relaxed hippie, practicing that mind space, that kind of sort of very relaxed hippie headspace of things around you are just going to happen, and you smile and you don't worry about it, and you put yourself in that sort of very easy, relaxed running flow state and just let the world happen around. Let the prams go past you and let the runners that don't look as talented as you go past you and kick your ass, and don't let your ego get involved. And so that was a really good practice for me, not just physically to make my slow pace faster and more efficient, but also to make my headspace very happy. Like I haven't got any problems with someone overtaking me. I've got nothing to prove. Like I don't have to be that ego runner of like, I've got to be at the front, I've got to beat this lady. This lady looks fast, but I can beat her. Like, it's ridiculous, right? But that's what we do as runners, is we go too fast. We run too fast, too often. I still did tons of speed work. I did some crazy sessions, like some Emil Zatopek sessions of 25 by 200s and some crazy hill sprints. And like, basically Martin had me going from super easy to super hard, super easy, super hard. to the point where I'd look at my week and I'm like, he's trying to kill me. That's all he's doing.
Trying to break you.
He's trying to break me. He thinks I'm going to miss that set. He thinks I'm going to mess that up. But I'm going to do it, and I'm going to show him that I can do 25 by 200, and my last 200 is going to be faster than everything else. Last one, best one, and I'm going to show him. So, you know, and Lydiard hills and you know, Arthur Lydiard stuff, and, you know, doing these like 3.5 hour long, slow runs. And I'm like, he thinks I'm going to miss that session and I'm going to wimp out. And I've done like 150 Ks this week, but I'm going to do it. And 3 hour progressives where you're doing 1 hour easy, 1 hour moderate, and then 1 hour fast, which sounds really easy, but you've got two.
It doesn't.
Well, like the easy. So I started to treat like my warm ups for like an hour or an hour and a half warm up. Like I was doing 4 hours, sometimes 3.5, 4 hour training runs, where in my head I'm going, right, it's a 2 hour warm up. But I got into my head that breaking it up in thirds was a really powerful thing. So you got warm up, work, cool down. And even if the cool down is an hour, if I can get in my head, it's cool down. I don't have to push anymore. That was really a lovely psychological way to break it down. I use that on race day as well, but except the warm up was like 12 hours.
Yeah, and there was one time just down the road. I go down there just to shoot some hoops, and I look over, and there's obviously a big track there, and there I see you just walking, pacing like a man possessed, and the last thing I was going to do was interrupt you, and I'm wondering, what in God's name are you doing?
I looked really angry, I imagine.
Can you explain yourself, please?
So my strategy for the race was broken down into 15-minute blocks, and it's 13-2. So 13 minutes of easy, relaxed running in zone 2 with 2 minutes of brisk walking. And the benefit of doing that is it keeps your heart rate low. It gives you 2-minute little walking breaks so you can get some food in. And then it also, if you walk briskly, it shakes your legs out and it keeps your legs ticking over.
Like removing the lactic acid.
Removing the lactic acid,
right.
And then maintaining the mobility. So I learned that in order to get the target that I needed, which was over 10 Ks an hour, and sort of gradually building up to 10.5 and 11, 11.5, 11.4, I had to get my walking faster.
Right.
So I started as like walking down the high street walk in like December, January. And Marcin was giving
like
me these
Paris fashion show.
Yeah, just like, where's Coles? Is it this way? Or maybe I'll go to a Woolies. You know, I'll go get a coffee in that cafe. So you kind of start off as like just a walker, a normal walker, and then you realise, well, actually, you know, I can do 8-minute Ks. I can do, you know, sub 8-minute Ks. I do a sub, you know, do a 7:30. Well, actually, if I really go for it, and I, you know, look like a complete madman walking around the park, I can do sub 7-minute Ks. You know, and I just kept pushing that walking pace, and it was just fascinating to me that there's this whole other aspect of the pushing off the ground game, the long distance game, which is, you know, because walking and running is the same thing. You know, people say, oh, I'm not a fast runner, I'm just a walker. It's all the same game. We're just like Eskimos with 1,000 different words for snow.
It's all off the ground game.
It's the pushing off the ground game. Can you push off the ground for 24 hours? Doesn't really matter how fast you go, but what distance can you cover? And the push off the ground game aspect that I needed to work on was the looking like a crazy 40-year-old in the park, looking angry and frustrated and looking like I was, you know, marching after a child or something. So I looked like an angry parent sort of marching across a park. And I think, yeah, there's two aspects to that. It made me a faster walker. It gave me that muscle memory. It gave me that strength. It gave me sort of a better core as well because I'm nice and tall. You can get a great workout from walking. Walking is so underrated. Get your step count up. If you can do more steps in a day, that was such a, you know, epiphany for me. Was if I do, you know, 30,000 steps a day, it leans me out. It doesn't really matter how many, you know, how fast those steps are. Hit your step count. Do your steps. So I was doing a lot of walking. I'll do 2 sessions in the morning. I do a run with the Manly Beach Running Club. I do a bodyweight training session. Then I do my own run mid-morning or midday. And then I do a walk in the afternoon. And I got into sort of doing these 10K walks, and it was really empowering. But so the second aspect is if you're happy marching around a park looking like an idiot, then you're fine. You can smile on a 400-meter track. if you're used to smiling at people when they look at you funny marching beside a tennis court, you know? So yeah, I got very comfortable being uncomfortable, and comfortable being uncomfortable physically, and comfortable being uncomfortable emotionally, and that was a really good thing for me. I was like, I want this so bad that if people think I'm a nutcase, that's okay.
Were the other competitors in this event doing the walking thing as well?
Yeah, so Simone is a fantastic runner that's represented Australia. She's got the same coach as me, and 15 minutes into the race, we realised, oh wow, we're on the same schedule here. Like you're doing a walk at 13 minutes in, and so am I. So, and
funny that same coach,
same strategy. So then we got into a sort of rhythm of every time it's a walking break, we'd go coo-ee, because we're Australian, right? And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to be Aussie, and we're not trying to be Aussie. We are Aussie, and so we were prompting each other that it was time to have a walking break and time to get some food in. So that was a really lovely thing that we had going throughout the race, where even though she was on the other side of the track, I'd hear her coo-ee, and I'm like, oh sweet, walking break.
That's cool.
Yeah, so that strategy, I know Stephen Redfern was doing some walking. Everyone, the thing about the walking breaks is you can either put them in early, or you can end up towards the end of the race doing some walking.
Only walking.
You're good. You can. It is possible to outrun your running, and for me, I wanted to hold on to that running like a precious little bit of fuel, and just hold on to that. And I knew that if I could be really disciplined and really patient in the first 12 hours and have that warm up, have that kind of setup, setup is probably a better description of it. If I can set this up with lots of food going in, being disciplined to get the calories in, so that later on down the track, I've got that fuel to burn when I possibly don't want to eat anymore or can't eat anymore. The walking breaks were really setting up the possibility of hitting 240 in the second half. So, and it's not, if you watch someone doing an ultra walk, you can't call it walking. It's not walking. There's a lot of arm swinging. Yeah. It's a brisk walk.
Oh, I saw a lot of arm swinging.
You saw a lot of that. It looks ridiculous.
So the race ended up happening in late July. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was it supposed to happen earlier in the year, but coronavirus interfered with that plan?
Yep, so originally it was going to be the 4th of July. There was another race, it was a different event that was going to happen in March that was cancelled. That was my original event. And as I lined up for that event, as I sort of tapered for that event, because it was only cancelled 3 days out, the target was 220 in March, and I think I was capable of 220 in March. So again, in a funny kind of like serendipitous way, the stars aligned so that I had April, May, June, and a bit of July to build things up further, and then be even more prepared for the next event. So it definitely worked out in my advantage, I think, to have that extra bit of time with Martin to figure stuff out, and then for him to try and kill me for another 2 or 3 months.
It did rattle you though, right? Because you've been training so hard, and all your focus is on this event in March, and then all of a sudden it doesn't happen. I know we had a bit of a dinner get together, and you polished off a couple of glasses of red because you were just, all of a sudden you don't know what you're preparing for, I suppose, and you don't know when things are going to start to open back up. That must have been incredibly tough.
Oh, look, for me it's like missing the ferry. Like, I'd rather miss the ferry by half an hour than by 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Like that hurts when the ferry's just pulling away and you're like, oh man, like I'd rather miss it by, 15 minutes. And like it was here ages ago and I didn't even see it. With that event in March, it was like 3 days. It was Tuesday and the event was on the Friday or the Saturday. And it was so close and it was right there and I was ready and I was primed and my heart rate was low and I was rested and meditated and like, primed to go. And so that was frustrating, and that felt like pulling the rug from under your legs at the last seconds. So I think that was why I hit the red wine. I was like, oh man, like I was so ready for that. I was so ready.
I understand you.
It was just, and red wine, as everyone knows, is the perfect medicine for that kind of event.
I hope you're enjoying the chat. Just thought I'd give everyone a quick 30-second breather before we sink our teeth into race day. Please don't forget, go over and hit subscribe on iTunes and or on my YouTube channel. And any feedback that you can provide is going to go a long way in helping me to determine just what I do next. All right, let's get into it. And trust me, this is where it really gets interesting. Okay, Mr. Human Hamster, it's not sitting well yet.
What a lovely compliment.
I would love to, I feel like we've covered a lot of the journey to the race. I'd like to cover some of the race though, and to be fair, as we were following you on that Sunday morning, the last couple of hours digitally, I just had a million tiny weird little questions. So hopefully I can remember a lot of those. But for a bit of context, the race happened at the Australian Institute of Sport in Canberra, and it started on a Saturday morning basically, and then ran through to a Sunday morning. You don't live in Canberra, of course, so you drove down with a small team of fellow Manly Beach Running Club members. Can you talk to us about maybe, I don't know, the last few days leading up to the event? Part of that preparation.
Yeah, so I went down there with Chris Jackson and John and Anna Richardson, who are my dream team. Every time they support me, I do really well. So they're like booked up now for the next 5 years at least. And one of the preps that really helped me, I have a nutritionist from Balgowlah, Tamara Madden, and she's a bit of a superstar. So even though she thinks my whole plant-based lifestyle is ridiculous, she's very supportive in terms of how to prepare for endurance events. She's a very accomplished athlete, and she's an Ironman athlete and triathlete. And she got me on to Hydrolyte and mashed potato. So the event was Saturday morning at 8 o'clock. So in the 2 days preceding that, not only was I getting sleep throughout the week and sort of meditating and getting my head in a good place.
Were you trying to get like a million hours of sleep, as much as you could?
A million hours of sleep,
yeah.
A million hours of sleep, and just getting like super. I think I missed Friday morning's run, which is rare for me.
Right.
Rare, like usually I'd rock up and even just show my face. So I'd stayed in Friday morning, and my mate Brad Phillips kind of ran the show and did some great marketing with an awesome selfie. And I always feel guilty about missing any runs or any training. But I had an extra couple of hours in bed, and that made a big difference, I think, just having that extra 2 hours. So I think I must have had about 10 hours sleep on Thursday through to Friday.
Yeah.
And that made a big difference.
That's solid.
That's solid. Like, if you can get over 8 hours, I'm a happy bunny. And as I've got older, I need less and less sleep. So sometimes like I can function off 5 or 6 or 7. Whereas back in the day, if I had 5 hours sleep, I was grumpy for about 2 weeks. So the grumpiness factor has gone down significantly over the years, and I can, but if I get loads of sleep, then I'm so far from grumpy. I'm just like so happy.
Yeah.
So the last 2 days, Thursday and Friday, was all mashed potato and Hydrolyte. And look, I've had the mashed potato and Hydrolyte thing before. Lots of orange juice, lots of pasta with no sauce. And that's a great way to carb up all your cells and to get super hydrated.
Also, what's a bit of sauce in your pasta going to change?
Well, you're trying to get the maximum number of carbs.
Right. Okay.
Right. So, and you know what it is, right? It may not be super scientific, but in your head, you're going, look at the I'm going through to prepare for this race. I must want this really bad. So there's a psychological thing that's happening.
Placebo almost.
Placebo. And the placebo thing is measurable, right? Placebo is powerful. If your brain says, we can do this, which is what my brain says, that's what the voices in my head say. There's lots of voices in there, and I have to be very careful. Some of them say kill, but I just ignore those ones. But if you can get the sort of different aspects of who you are all lined up, going, we can do this. And it is an internal conversation between your frontal cortex and your kind of like, your reptilian brain and the bit that's doubting that anything is possible. If you can negotiate that, then that's a really powerful thing. And I gave up coffee for 4 days as well, which,
I love coffee for 4 days.
For 4 days, yeah. Well, that's massive for me. So that was really big. And I can still get the benefits of the extra hydration by coming off coffee for 4 days. You know, in the past I've come off coffee for weeks, and it's been like 2, 3, 4 weeks of zero coffee, but I just couldn't put myself through that. Life demands coffee. So yeah, 4 days of extra hydration, no diuretics like coffee, obviously no alcohol as well.
Yeah.
Really good food, lots and lots of eggplant from fish bowl, and that seemed to kind of get everything, all the nutrients in my body in the last few days. Obviously, massively decreased number of kilometers that week as well.
Yeah.
I did support Jeremy Rankin the weekend before doing a 100-mile event, and I did sort of 50 Ks of hiking with him.
Oh, right, wow.
But I convinced my coach that was okay because, you know, getting all that inspiration from a first-time 100-miler is super potent. It's really good stuff. So I had a huge amount of love and inspiration and, you know, joy from seeing Jeremy do his first 100 miles. Cut down the coffee, cut down the running, get the hydration from the hydrolyte, smashing loads of hydrolyte, you know, constantly going to the bathroom because I was so hydrated and just feeling pumped. And then the mashed potato, it's obviously potatoes with no skin, mashed, so it's low fiber, getting those carbs into my body, and just constantly telling myself, look at the measures that I'm taking to prepare for this race. I must want this really bad. And then trying to get as much of that good stuff in me with the understanding that there will be a depletion at some point during 24 hours. You're going to hit a wall at some point, and you want to have all that good stuff in there to tap into. You want to have a deep reserve of hydration and carbs and good low GI energy that can keep burning, and hopefully keep those running legs ticking over. So there's, you know, a lot of placebo stuff, a lot of psychological stuff, but a lot of confidence building kind of rituals that, you know, there is a significant sort of 0.51% effect, which is significant and useful, but sort of feedback loop into your own psychology.
Yeah, right. And just one little side question. You mentioned you gave up alcohol as well. You don't drink a lot in general, do you?
Depends what year it is. 2020. 2020 has been the year of Shiraz for me so far.
Yeah, right.
So
how often do you crack open a bottle of Shiraz?
Look, I very rarely, not as often maybe as some, but cut to like 3 or 4 nights a week now.
Yeah, right.
At the moment, I have a cheeky glass, with some pistachios. And
I mean, there are plenty of articles on the internet that'll tell you that's good for you.
That's good for you.
Whether
Yeah.
or not you want to believe that is another story.
I try not to drink to excess. You know, we had a bit of a celebration on Saturday, so. You know, we were hitting the red wine and the pizzas. The pizzas and the red wine were getting consumed.
A bit different.
That's a bit different.
Celebratory.
That was celebratory, and but 9 times out of 10, I'm, you know, a boring, early to bed, get up and do 3 training sessions kind of person. So, you know, I think for me, alcohol is definitely something that can cause dehydration, which can lead to injury. So I'm very wary of drinking too much alcohol, and I try to limit my coffees to 1 coffee a day as I get closer to events. Yeah. Obviously not today because you used to be a barista, so you know that kind of helps. You had to try my filtered coffee. It's essential.
Exactly. And then when did you go down to Canberra on Friday? So like the day before the event? Yeah. So Chris Jackson, who's a captain at Manly Beach Running Club, who's a bit of a leader and a super cool dude. He's a very good friend of mine, and he sort of got me in a good headspace. We drove down to Canberra and had a little bit of Rachmaninoff piano concertos on the way down, and it was just perfect. And having his energy around me the day before the race was just bellissima. Just again, so many aspects of this lead up were perfect, and that was definitely one of them. And I think I think we got there like 3 or 4 o'clock. I did my last sort of day before race prep run. So 5K with some strides, with some bursts in, 15-second bursts. Wow, even the day before.
Yeah, so, you know, that's been one of the learning curves in the preparation for this race, is understanding that, you know, speed is for long distance runners. Yeah. You know, that's a massive kind of eureka moment for me, is, you know, the 15-second burst, the 30-second hill sprints, the 200-meter up-tempo stuff, the intervals, and all of that stuff that I don't want to do. I like to run long. I don't like to do the short, painful, sweaty, I can't run very fast stuff. But actually being in that uncomfortable place is where you get the most benefits, I think, from the fast twitch muscles and from the kind of like headspace of being uncomfortable. So yeah,
getting comfortable being uncomfortable.
Exactly. Where'd you learn that from?
I don't know, just one
local running club, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. And then, so you guys stayed at a hotel Friday night, I'm assuming. Did you get much sleep the night before this race?
Oh, that's a good question. So we stayed in a place called Abode in Canberra, in Gun, that's the one.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we had a family room that Anna and John were potentially going to stay in, but they stayed somewhere else because they had a bit of work to do and they didn't want to disturb me. And that night, my wonderful, awesome pal, Chris Jackson, was snoring his head off. And you would think that that would completely destroy my race. And it had the potential to, but only if I let it, if that makes sense.
So this was like almost like a pre-race test.
Yeah, I felt like this was like my chance to become a Jedi, I was like, okay, this really sucks, and it doesn't matter how many pillows I put on my head, this guy is a snorer. But I finally found something wrong with Chris. He's a wonderful dude, but he is a snorer. So, and he did warn me. To be fair, he said in advance. But when someone says I snore, you don't think it's going to be decibels beyond traffic outside. So he was having a good old go at keeping me awake, and that forced me into a headspace of going, well, if I'm frustrated with this, I'm about to run for 24 hours. I cannot be frustrated with this. I can't be, the way I'm reacting to this and the thoughts that I'm having and the, oh my God, catastrophizing, this is all falling apart and everything's terrible. I need to find a headspace that takes me away from that version of myself and gets me back into that authentic part of me that is actually just cool with what I'm doing and ready for this. So I did some binaural sounds of the ocean for 30 minutes. Didn't work. And I had the ocean going from my right ear to my left ear, and that was something from Martin. And then I found this kind of hypnotism YouTube video, and it was a guided hypnotism.
Yeah.
And during the spoken guided meditation, hypnotism, it took me down into my happy room, deep into a deep sense of relaxation. And I saw myself going down these stairs into this happy room. And they described how this wall was a certain color, and that was confidence. And that was, flow state. And this one was relaxation and peace. And it took me around this beautiful, quiet little room and made me touch each of the different colored walls. And I did this for about 45 minutes at 3 a.m. And when I woke up,
no drugs were involved here.
No drugs were involved,
wow.
But all those drugs are, reacting with chemicals already in your brain. So going down into that room and just finding this incredibly peaceful, happy little basement room with all my favorite colors on the wall, like Pacific blue on this wall and purple on this wall, and just this is a process I've used before in previous races where I want to turn up to that race, feeling super chilled, like there's no room for anxiety, there's no room for a higher heart rate, because obviously you want to keep your heart rate low. So I woke up feeling just like a superhero. I just, ego was suppressed and anxiety was low. I was hydrated, hadn't had any coffee in my system, but I felt awake and alert. And there wasn't a lot of sleep that happened, but for me as an insomniac, that's fine. It's not something I necessarily need to have every night. And I'd stocked up all those 10 hours on Thursday night to Friday and had a bit of a lazy Friday morning and a slow breakfast. So yeah, I think in hindsight, it was all perfect. Like I couldn't have asked for a more perfect person to share that family room with, to prompt me to then get onto that track of being relaxed and calm, and touching all those different, very peaceful, calming colours down in that basement, peaceful room. So, I think one of the wonderful things about having a strong mind is that you can drive yourself nuts, like very easily. I can drive myself crazy very easily, but I can also, in contrast, I can take myself to a place that's highly productive and hopefully beneficial for race day.
Who would have thought that having a snorer in the room the night before was
perfect?
The perfect recipe.
Look, I think if you want to do well in your next race, then you need to get in contact with Chris and maybe book a hotel room.
Wow. What time did the race start Saturday, and what were the final things that you had to tick off, on that Saturday morning?
So Saturday, 8 o'clock was the start of the race. So we got there at about 6:30. We set up the table.
So, and your team had a kind of a tent and a table in the middle of the track, basically.
Yeah, so there was a line of marquees on the sort of first 100 metres of the track.
Yeah.
So each of them had, our name on each of the marquees, which was, made me feel like a real professional to turn up to a race. And there's only 7 tents, and one of them has my name on it.
And there were 30 runners total?
Like 7.
Oh, okay, 7.
7, and then 2 in Victoria.
And 2 in Victoria. Okay.
Yeah, so very exclusive event. So an invitational, just inviting athletes that want to go for that sort of course record or compete for Australia.
You wouldn't want many around the track that you're having to overtake every,
Yeah, I mean, potentially that would make it more difficult, especially when people are doing their walking breaks. I'm sure I annoyed a few people doing my walking breaks.
Especially when you're getting into the 20th and 21st hour.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you don't want to do any extra Ks, or any extra meters. But yeah, absolutely. I think having less people there is a good thing and a bad thing. They're all friends. Yeah. So it's pretty cool to see my tent was between a Commonwealth athlete and a world record holder. And I'm like, okay, I've got Yoasia on this side, who's, got Commonwealth silver medalist. And on this side, I've got Luca Turini, who is like a previous world record holder. And you're just like, imposter syndrome. I don't belong here. I'm just Joe. They're going to find out any minute and chuck me off the track. But so the preparation was to do my usual warm-up. And I've been drilling the same warm-up for months and months and months and months and months, every session, same warm-up. And it's a confidence thing. It's a ritualistic behavior. And then my shiatsu acupuncture guy gave me a visualization for the start line. Because, it's so easy for me to start worrying and have imposter syndrome and get anxious. So we visualized Gonzo's cannon firing Gladys Berejiklian into the sky with some confetti. So when they said 3, 2, 1, go, I know that's not the start of the race. I can run for a long time before the race starts, and so can Luca Turini and Yoasia and Stephen Redfern and Matt Griggs and Matt Eggford and Simone, and they can all run forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. The race doesn't start at 0 hours. It starts at 18 hours. So saw Gonzo fire his cannon in my head with the confetti, and poor old Gladys getting fired.
Why poor old Gladys?
Because just for no offense to Gladys at all, it's just and I think
She's been a prominent public figure.
It's just something ridiculous. Just you have to just sprinkle a little bit of nonsense, I think, onto whatever important, formal, very serious thing you're doing, just to take you out of that head. Because it's just because as much as we think these things are important, it's just a race, and it's and it's you with your mates, and it's just another training day. And taking me out of that kind of serious headspace was part of the goal for the start of the race. So I had a visualization of a Muppet firing a cannon with confetti. It doesn't have to be Gladys in the cannon. It was more Gonzo with a silly face, and having that nonsense. But I do think a little bit of nonsense goes a long way.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So you obviously you start running, and you mentioned earlier that you were aiming for 10 kilometre hours, basically, which is fairly normal, I suppose, for anyone that tries to get into running. One checkpoint along the way is try and get 10Ks done in under an hour. Obviously, it's different when you have to do it 24 times in a row without, rest. So when you're running for the 13 minutes, and then obviously you got your 2 minutes of walking, what pace are you trying to do that 13-minute blocking?
Yeah, so 5:15.
5:15.
5:15 is,
yeah.
But then the hours are then broke down into different blocks as well.
Right.
So I created, with my coach Martin Fry, created like a fading through the 24 hours.
Yes.
So you want to front load the Ks, you want to front load the calories,
right.
Get some food in at the start of the race from the off.
So did you have a big meal on Saturday morning?
No, but throughout the race I was eating every 15 minutes. So I was going 15 minutes.
Every 15 minutes?
Yeah.
Wow.
So 15 minutes tailwind, 15 minutes banana, 15 minutes tailwind, 15 minutes Vegemite sandwich. Then again, rounds, tailwind, banana,
What's
tailwind.
A tailwind?
Tailwind is my sponsor.
Right.
Thank you for asking. Tailwind.
That was completely accidental.
That was beautiful.
Yeah,
that was beautiful.
Yeah.
What is tailwind, did you say?
Yes.
Tailwind. Let me talk about tailwind. Did I say tailwind? So Tailwind Nutrition Australia are my sponsors, and it's an electrolyte carbohydrate formula powder that goes into water.
Right.
And their tagline is "All you need, all day, honestly," and it's an incredible product that has created a real difference in my training. Means I never cramp. I rarely get tired. I rarely run out of fuel. And both Stephen Redfern and I on the start line are both Tailwind athletes. We're both Tailwind trailblazers. And the Tailwind family, Gavin and Beck and all those guys have been amazing, very supportive. And it's just a great product that a lot of ultra runners use, and they sponsor a lot of events. And it works.
So Tailwind, banana,
Tailwind, Vegemite
sandwich.
Because I'm Australian now, right? I've got my passport in the last couple of years.
Incredible.
So, and then every 4 hours I'd go mashed potato.
Right.
And every couple of hours I'd have a cup of water to help digest those calories. So
you weren't actually consuming a lot of water during the race, just a cup.
Well, the tailwind is obviously mixed with water, so there's water in that. Yeah. But the cup of water every hour or two just helps my stomach digest everything, and that's, again, Tamara Madden has helped me with that stuff and sort of broken that down into a bit of science. And then, so you do that for as long as you can to get the Vegemite sandwiches in, get the bananas in, and get the mashed potato in. You're going to have a deficit no matter what. So lots of numbers involved in long distance running. So you're burning about 700 calories an hour, depending on your body weight composition and your gender, and you're only able to consume and digest about 200 or 250 if you're lucky. Yeah. So you're going to have a deficit no matter what. Yeah. What you're trying to do is keep that deficit to an absolute minimum. Yeah. And just like a steam engine going down the track, you're putting the calories in with the knowledge that you won't be burning those calories immediately, but 10Ks, 15Ks, 20Ks, 100Ks down the track, that's stoking the fire and keeping those calories burning, keeping the engine running. So as well as those numbers, the other numbers I had in my head and with my support crew was a fade from the start of the race to the finish of the race. So first 2 hours I was trying to run 10.5 Ks an hour to get some Ks in the bank. Yeah. My legs are fresh. Yeah. 10.5, 10.5. Hour 3, 10.44. Hour 4, 10.44. 10.38, 10.38, right, 10.32. Boom, 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 boom.
Very precise.
Very precise. So I'm trying to get some Ks in the bank, front load the Ks, front load the calories, with the knowledge psychologically my race is getting easier and easier and easier. Everyone else's race is getting harder. My race is getting easier. My target's getting lower and lower and lower. So at 12 hours, I'm at 120 something, 121, which wasn't as many Ks as I wanted to accrue in those first 12 hours. But between 12 hours and 14, I managed to find a couple more Ks. So then I've got, at 14 hours, I've got 143 or so, 42.8 or something. And then I'm saying to myself, right, I've got those 2.8 in the bank. That's a long toilet break. That's a spit my dummy and throw my toys out the pram break. Because at some point I might get fed up and hate this race and want to quit and need my support crew to go, come on, you've got time, you're still ahead of schedule. So creating buffers. So you're constantly, for me, the positive psychology is I'm ahead, I'm doing well, I'm strong, I feel good, I'm ahead, I've got those calories in, I'm sticking to my program, I'm following my strategy, I'm doing everything that's asked of me. I'm following every single rule that I've put out. I'm following those rules. I'm getting the food in, I'm loading up the calories, I'm getting the sort of over 10 Ks an hour, in the knowledge that at some point the wheels are going to fall off. And yeah, I think later in the race, at like 21 hours, I couldn't eat any more food. Like I physically couldn't get those calories in, and it's so boring eating that kind of food.
Oh, the same thing over and over.
Yeah, like I ate a lot of bananas and I ate a lot of Vegemite sandwiches, and Eurasia started saying to me, "Another banana." Every time she passed me, "Another banana," and I'm like, "This is how I do it." Towards the end of the race, then it's just sugar and caffeine. Yeah. And you're just going Snickers and caffeine and Revy strip. Yeah. Snickers, Panadol with caffeine. So you just whatever works towards the end. But setting up the race so that when you do that, you've got enough in there that the caffeine can actually burn something. Because if there's nothing in there, God, caffeine and tiredness and broken legs is a funny mixture. But yeah.
So you mentioned you banked yourself a toilet break. That was something I hadn't thought about. Did you have to stop at certain times to go to? Did they have a toilet set up in the middle of the track? How does that work?
That would be good, wouldn't it? Just like little, a portaloo.
Little portaloos next to your marquee.
Well, there were toilets at the track, and we had to sort of go off the track and use the toilet.
Right.
And God bless Matt Griggs, but one of those cubicles was not a pretty state at about 12 or 13 hours in. So it went from one cubicle in the men's toilets to two cubicles to one.
How many times roughly did you have to use it?
It's a really interesting one, because in training I was getting frustrated going to the loo, and what I learnt was sort of 2 or 3 months out from race day, that actually a loo break is super powerful because it gets your heart rate down. It's a lovely little break, and when you're on the track, there's no hiding. You're not on the trails. You're not out in the mountains. People can see every move you make. So the one place you can just kind of go and hide away for 2 minutes is sitting on that toilet cubicle, and just, you get to sit down as well, which is fantastic. So I really started to appreciate my toilet breaks, and it was really a great way to get my heart rate down.
As long as you were looking forward to your next toilet
break. I was looking forward to the toilet breaks. Instead of getting frustrated that I was losing time, it became like a little treat. When it's raining and it's cold and you're tired, and you try and find those little treats wherever you can, and those little wins. So
every couple of hours, maybe
sneak over there, go for a quick number one, or if you're really lucky, a number two, and you get to sit down. But I tried to remove the resistance of going to the toilet and sort of thinking I'm losing time. It was all factored into that buffer. So I've got the buffer. Don't worry. It takes 400 meters, 2 minutes to do 400 meters, or 2 minutes 30. So you've got the 2 minute 30 loo break, because you've got 2.8 Ks in the bank. And maybe you lose 400 meters and you're down to, 2.4 K buffer, but you've still got enough in there to, get rid of some of those Vegemite sandwiches later on in the race. But I think, I thought of all this stuff. Like there's no such thing as over prepared. So I really wanted to show what I could do. So the loo breaks and the fading and all of these things were obviously discussed before I got there. So there's no surprises. When I'm sitting on the loo, I'm enjoying my time sitting down.
When did you stop eating? Solid foods like sandwiches and bananas. How many hours down by that point?
Oh, look, that's another thing that worked really well. I managed to keep getting food in until 22 hours.
Right. Okay.
And then I was just so broken that it was just caffeine and bit of hydration, bit of tailwind, the occasional Panadol. Finally in the last hour I had a Revy strip, which I really hate Revy strips, but what a massive difference that made. That's like 4 coffees in one little bit of chewing gum. And that was just crazy. I just, I had put my earphones in, had the Revy strip, and managed to kick that last hour. I was being chased by John Yoon, which obviously was a massive incentive to speed up and get going. But the Revy strip was pretty powerful. That's something I'll be using in the next race for sure, because coffee has such a massive effect on me. But yeah, up until 22 hours, and then my crew said, right, Snickers, Kit Kats, and
you're in race mode,
and fist bumps, and now we race. Now we work.
Did you have your earpods in the entire race, or what was the go there?
We were really lucky. Matt Eckford set this race up with his lovely lady Katie, and they had speakers on one side of the track. And so they were playing all of this music as we were running around the track, and you kind of get half a song on one side, and then on the other side you've got your crew talking to you. So, we listened to some news broadcasts talking about COVID, and then we listened...
So you were up to date for that
perfectly up to date, and then
period.
they kept saying what time it was. I was like, stop telling me the time, I don't need to know.
Yeah, so that's the last thing you want to
know.
know.
You don't want to hear any numbers. So running around this side of the track, they were playing all my favourite songs. There was a little bit of Prodigy, there was a little bit of Imagine Dragons, there was, stuff from parties,
stuff.
all the good stuff.
Yeah.
What did they have? They had all sorts that I'd listened to during my training. So none of us had earphones or AirPods in, and in the last 2 hours it was Panadol, caffeine, AirPods, focus, and put the blinkers on and get the job done. So I really needed all of that kind of like high tempo music that I've been listening to in my training to get that good stuff out of me and get the Ks on the track. And I felt a bit rude because I was running past Uesha, who, several times throughout the race, throughout the day, she was 7 Ks ahead, 5 Ks ahead. She was kicking everyone's ass, and she had an incredible event. She did really well. She broke 5 records during her race. Wow. She's a Commonwealth athlete, and she's like just this freaking Amazon female warrior. She's incredible. And I think, catching up with her and unlapping myself and kind of taking my soul back from her, David Goggins style, was a nice thing to do, but I didn't really have time to savor it because I was sort of in a lot of pain and trying to keep ahead of John Yoon. So thank you, John, for kicking my ass, because I wouldn't have gone that fast at the end if he wasn't a K behind me.
Yeah. And we'll get to the pain in a second, but one more little dumb question. A Garmin or whatever watch you're wearing, that doesn't last for 24 hours if it's on the clock, right? So did you have to have a couple of spare watches?
So I put it on ultra track mode.
Okay.
So ultra track mode is less accurate, but you can see your 13.2s.
Right. Okay.
So I knew run, coo-wee, walk, run, coo-wee, walk. That's all I needed.
So
really.
That lasted you the full 24 hours?
So it lasted 24 hours,
wow.
And it did the job. But in terms of accuracy, this was telling me I was going all sorts of paces.
Yeah.
So it's telling me now you're doing 4-minute Ks, now you're doing 6-minute Ks.
Oh, right.
And I finished and it said 255 Ks. So it is incredibly inaccurate. I'm pretty sure I didn't do 15 Ks of going to the loo. Nothing like that.
But you had your crew pretty much telling you how far you'd run and all that stuff.
Yeah, my crew were keeping me up to date, and John Richardson in my crew was reading my mind. It was incredible. Like, Chris was super positive and giving me fist bumps and saying words of encouragement, and Anna was just like smiles and enthusiasm and the occasional kiss on the cheek, which was great, made me look like, an absolute hero. I felt like such a fraud. And then John was just like, and now you want this. And it's like, how do you know I want a banana? How do you know I want a Vegemite? How do you know when to give it to me? How do you know what I was about to ask you? So John was just so in tune with my race, so dedicated to me having a great day. And he was just willing me, like, the energy of John was like, we're doing this, you're going to catch her. And yeah, I don't think I believed in myself as much as John believed in me. It was just wonderful to have that energy.
So they all played that role in a perfect team.
Perfect team, and
they would have had to have breaks.
There's a
24-hour event. Surely they went off to try and get.
I
some
think
sleep
Chris
along the way.
snored in the back of the tent at some point, and Anna and John did a bit of swap over. And I think Chris helped out with Yoasha's crew as well, and there was all sorts of shifts going on. But pretty much, for my crew, they were there. You know, all three of them were there, just like we're freaking doing this. You know, and I'm very lucky to have friends like that. You know, there's very few friends that will stay up with you all night to make your dreams come true. And that touched me a lot.
I suppose if I was there,
you'd fall asleep.
And I'm feeling like I'm pretty over this. You just have to think for a second. Hang on a second. All I have to do is stand in the tent. He's the one running on the track.
You know what, Phil? It's hard. It's hard being a support crew person because you feel the pressure, especially if your athlete's doing well and you're like, shit, like I could mess this up if I give them the wrong banana at the wrong time, or if I say the wrong thing, or you know, if we don't keep this person going. So it's a lot of anxious energy. It's not an easy job, and I've supported people several times over the years, and it's a bit of an art. I think being a support crew person is terrifying. If your athlete is doing bad, then it's not so bad because you're like, well, they're dying. You know, they're having a bad day. I can just walk beside them and, you know, give them a nudge now and again, keep them awake. If they're doing well and they're on for a win or a course record, you know, I'll be supporting Michaela this year at the Coast to Kosciuszko, and I'm sure she's going to do really well. That's scary because you're just like, shit, you know. If I mess things up for this athlete and, you know, I ruin their dream, you know, this is their lifelong ambition, and they haven't got this race again for another year, then it's a year of like ignoring them as you know, when you get down to the beach, you've got to kind of like cross the road and go to a different cafe because you don't want to see them and acknowledge the fact you messed up their weekend. So yeah, it's a big deal, and Anna, John and Chris were up to the task and able to totally focus, sacrifice their whole weekend, and just overload me with love and you know, coordinate with crew back, you know, in Sydney and people in the UK, and show me messages from my mum and dad, and your dad says this and your sister says that, and here's your sister, and this is your mum's
updated on
keep everyone else updated, and like, here's a video of Joe and this, he's doing really well. And you know, it's only afterwards, after the event, you're like, wow, these guys, you know, sacrifice so much.
So when did you start to feel pain for the first time, or when was the first time where it was like, hang on, because obviously you did so much preparation and you were so ready, but when was the first time when something didn't quite go to plan?
11 hours.
Right.
So I was meant to have my first caffeine at 18 hours into the race. So that was the strategy, was like leave it to the last 6 hours, and it was 12 hours warm up, 6 hours work, and 6 hour cool down. So that was what I had in my head. That third's kind of third, even though 12 hours isn't a third. Excuse me. But yeah, at 11 hours, I shouted to my crew, right, we're bringing the caffeine forward. So poor guys, as I'm running past them, I'm shouting things at them, and they've got to sort it out before I come back round. So, you know, every time I'm going past the tent, I'm shouting like 140. And they're like, what is he talking about? What is he on about? They have to decipher. And John was very good at deciphering all the nonsense I was shouting at the tent every time I ran past. You know, I'd say, like, banana. They're just like, I think he said banana. So, yeah, as I ran past, I'm like, right, we're bringing the caffeine forward. And it felt kind of frustrating to bring it 7 hours forward, but I knew I could run some good Ks through that night section. So 11 hours into the race is like 7 p.m, 7:30, something like that. So I knew between sort of 7:30, 8 o'clock, round to 12, 1 in the morning, there was some good running time there. And being a POM, running in the cold, running at night, and it was raining for 18 to 20 hours of the race. That cold rain, night air is a lovely time for me to run. So I really wanted to get some more Ks in the bank. I was at 121 at 12 hours, and I knew I could get maybe another 1.5, 2 Ks in the bank to create that buffer using that bit of caffeine. So it was strategic to bring it forward, get some good running, recognize that at 1, 2, 3 in the morning, 18 hours would be 2 in the morning, recognize that at that point I'm probably going to get tired. And then it was just a case of, what you got, how bad do you want it? How deep can you go to drag all that good stuff out of you? But yeah, 11 hours, which is, maybe there's a better race in me at some point in the future, but, I don't know if that was necessarily super painful. but it was, I was there to work,
Yeah,
and
right.
I had to turn it on at 11 hours. I think it wasn't necessarily 11 hours of easy and then work, but it was like, okay, this, shit's got real.
Yeah, and I've seen some of the vision towards the end of the race. On Sunday morning, it appeared as though it was absolutely pissing down with rain in Canberra.
Yeah.
And then you also have to think as well, it's July in Canberra. It's cold.
It's really cold.
Can you explain the weather right the way through?
Yeah, so look, it started raining quite early on Saturday in the first day, and then it wasn't particularly heavy until the night section. So it was a sprinkle of rain, then it got heavier as the night went on, and then
So
from
sort of 9-10 p.m.-ish.
Yeah, 9-10 p.m.-ish, yeah. And then it got heavier throughout the night. Then it became torrential at about 3 in the morning.
Far out.
But the interesting thing is, my accent gives away a bit of an advantage, which is where I'm from, rainy days are 10 to the dozen. So, a beautiful summer's day in the UK often involves a rainbow, and that's because it's raining. So, I think I have an advantage in that I've lived in Essex and I've worked in London and I lived in Manchester, all in the UK. Manchester in particular, if it isn't raining, then you might have woken up in the wrong city. It really is a place where rain is something that you live with and you get used to. Some of my best runs as well have been in the rain, whether it's because it makes me feel at home or it's because I just find it cools my muscles down.
Yeah, right.
Like I wouldn't describe myself as a traditionally very lean, super skinny runner. I've got muscles. I've got some muscle mass in, especially the tops of my legs. My quads are quite big from trail running and from kickboxing and from, playing rugby as well. So I've got some muscles in here, and having cold muscles, a bit like a super cooled engine in a car, that really works well for me. I prefer freezing cold rain to any other weather,
Right.
And you'll see this.
So do you think that actually helped you?
Oh, for sure.
So,
for sure.
Because
yeah.
I suppose I was going to ask, if torrential rain, you had to go through that for a number of hours. So does that actually mean that you've got a better race in you, down the track if it wasn't going to be raining as heavily? Or
There's 1,000 factors, right? If I'd have got that message, if I didn't get that message from my dad saying, "Hey, son, we've just seen all the support online, and you've got hundreds of people posting comments, and we just want to say we're so proud, and we think to have that many people supporting you won the race already." Who knows? If I didn't get that message, I might have not been in the right headspace to try and make my parents proud and to run the best race I could. There were so many things that were boosting me, my support crew, my coach, the amazing amount of support behind me going out to Canberra, the expectation that people knew I could run well. There's a lot of things there, there's a lot of factors, so many components, and you can go, it's the caffeine, or it was the Revy strip, or it was John Yoon kicking my ass, or it was Yoasia just like destroying the field and lapping everyone and being 7Ks ahead. It was Chris giving me fist bumps and like taking his flute down to the track. There were so many components to the race that just, Chris snoring the night before, Anna like hugging me every opportunity she got, John reading my mind, and just having Ewan Horsburgh there, the president of Aura, was witnessing the race and watching it. You're like, oh, I want to impress the president of Aura and show Ewan what I can do. And, I think I'd love to say it was, here's the secret. Here's the one thing that if you do this, you're going to have a really good race. But actually, the rain helped, definitely. I love the rain, but it was one of 1,000 different things during, before, and in training that really put me in a headspace and in a place where, it just felt possible. It just felt like this is my day. And, I think the rain gives me a psychology of, I'm doing well in this race, I'm ahead of the curve, and I'm tough because it's raining. So it's a stupid little ego thing, I think, that goes, oh, look at you, you're doing really well, and it's raining, and you haven't stopped, and you're a real hero, you're doing so good. Aren't these videos going to look good on Facebook afterwards because you're running in the rain?
Yeah.
So it's, there's all these little ego tricks, I think, that make you feel like you are doing a good job, you know. And maybe I've programmed those in myself just through repetitive behavior. You know, repetition is the mother of invention, and I really believe that you can't get a more repetitive race than 400 meters running around and around and around on a track. Every lap, every 2.5 minutes is the same thing for 598 laps. So, yeah.
So when you said that the race really wasn't going to start until the last few hours, you obviously would have been happy with where you're at in that moment, but you did have, so Joasia, a female athlete from Poland, she was winning, she was beating everyone.
Yes.
Then there was obviously a moment when you took her over.
Yeah.
Who else was in and around, you know, in terms of competing against you? How close were they to you? And did you actually have to win this event to qualify for the Emus team, or could you have come second? You know, can you talk through that for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, Joasia broke 5 records during the race, and she's an incredible Polish-Scottish athlete. So, yeah, 5 different records, and she was just absolutely killing it for 21, 22 hours of the race. She was ahead of everyone.
How many laps ahead was she?
She was 7Ks ahead of me at like 20.
7Ks?
7Ks at
Wow.
like 21 hours, something like that.
Jeez.
And the 7Ks doesn't sound very much, but it just seemed insurmountable.
does to me.
It does, okay.
Yeah.
But I think the other factor was at 22 hours, I thought I'd won the race as the first male. And I thought I'll never catch Joasia, and I wasn't really incentivized. I think I got it down to sort of 5K or 3K at 22 hours, something like that. And but then as I'm running past the timing wall where Martin Fryer was doing the timing, and you know, Ewan Horsberg was there, and a few athletes were hanging out, someone shouted, "Oh, John Youn's 1.5Ks behind you," and I was just devastated because I was like, "Oh man, I'm broken. He's going to get me. He's going to catch me," you know. And it's not nice being the hare. I'd rather be the hound.
Were you expecting to be the hare?
I was expecting to be the hound.
Right.
You know, I was expecting to be right at the back, behind everyone for the first 12 hours, and then I knew I'd chip away, and I'd start to catch people up, and that tends to be how I run a race. I run it really flat all the way through, so I try and maintain my pace and stick to my race strategy rigidly if I can. And yeah, to hear that John, even though he was in Victoria, and you know, we were getting updates remotely. Different track, no rain, but you know, I love the rain, so that's not necessarily an advantage. But 1.5 Ks is terrifying.
So he was in Victoria too, just because of the border lockdown at this point.
Yeah. So John Youn and Nicky Wind, who are 2 Aussie athletes, Aussie reps, 2 weapons. And Nicky Wind has won everything. It's
a great race name, by the way.
Nicky Wind is a great name. Like, I wish my surname was Wind. That would be fantastic. But I think Nicky's won Badwater. She's been the Australian Runner of the Year. You know, John Youn. I've seen John Youn's big beaming smile on every photo of the Australian team. You know, standing beside Stephen Redfern and Matt Eckford, and you know, these are people that I idolise. You know, and to hear there's a weapon behind you, trying to kill you, trying to catch you up and take your soul. It's terrifying, you know. Being chased by an Aussie athlete is different to being chased by someone who's a runner. You know, 9 times out of 10, if someone's chasing me at 220 Ks into a race, I'm pretty confident I can take them. But when it's someone who's a weapon, you know, like, it's terrifying. It's the scariest thing. And I always prefer, as I said, to be the person chasing than the person being chased because of that anxious energy. So then I did a couple more laps, and they said, now he's 1K behind you. So he's gained 500 meters in 2 laps.
Yeah.
So I'm
with about an hour to go or something.
With 2 hours to go. So the wheels are falling off, and I started doing run the straights and walk the curves. So run the straight, walk the curve, so my strategy was falling apart.
So throw the 13-minute run, 2-minute walk out the window.
That wasn't happening.
So every lap now you run the straight, walk the curve.
Run the straight, walk the curve, yeah, and get rid of the ignore the crazy watch. It was giving me all crazy numbers anyway, and it was giving me nonsense. And so then with about an hour and a half to go. They're saying to me, look, you've got to get ahead of John. He's catching you up. I had a Revy strip, so the guys handed me a Revy strip, and I didn't ask for the Revy strip.
Chewing gum with four caffeines.
Four coffees in this chewing gum. John handed me this Revy strip because he was reading my mind. He knew what I needed before I needed it.
Yeah.
And I knew I needed this, but I was like, I can't eat these, guys. These are disgusting. I hate Revy strips.
How many Revy strips had you had by this point?
0.
Right. Okay.
I never used Revy strips. I didn't even have that in my tent. So someone must have put
John just snuck it in his pocket.
He's got some cheeky Revy strips hidden away somewhere.
Yeah.
So Revy strips came out. John hands me a Revy strip. And I say, I hate these. They taste like licking a battery. And they said, eat it. Just eat it.
Yeah.
I'm shouting. I'm sorry. So I ate it. And within 15 minutes, I'm flying. I'm flying. Right. And all of these...
Back to the full running, or are you still doing the running, walking?
Then it's just running. Running.
Right.
So for like an hour and a half or so, I was trying to break John's heart. I wanted to get so far ahead. And then they said to me, when I started running, I was running 2:30 loops, around 400 meters.
2 minutes 30 for a loop.
2 minutes 30 for 400 meters, which is all right. It's 6 minute K, 6 minutes something. And then they said, look, John's doing 2:21. Like, he's catching you up. You're going to have to speed up. So my 2:30 became 2:25, became 2:20, 2:15. 2:10, 2:05, and the revies are kicking in, and the guys are going, ah! And every time we're getting around to the timing clock, I'm seeing 2:10, 2:07, 2:05, and I'm like, this is great. 2:03, 2:02, and then I did a 2 minute, and then the next one was a 1:59.
Oh wow!
And Ewan Horsberg, the president of Aura, was there, and he's just going, like just waving his fist. Just my coach is almost crying in the rain, and I told myself I wanted to finish like a goddamn fucking champion, and that's what I did. And I was lucky enough that I could finish the way that I wanted to finish, and I knew that if I gave John I'd say an inch, but let's say a K is probably more precise. If I gave him any opportunity to take my soul and to have an incredible race at the end that he would get momentum from if he got ahead of me. I didn't want to give him any positive psychology. I wanted to that was my race, and he was never going to catch me. I wanted him to find out, in the same way that I found out John Hume is 1K behind me, I wanted him to find out, Joe's doing 1:59s. Joe's doing 2 minute 400s now. He's doing sub 5 minute Ks. So
statement laps.
Statement laps. You haven't got a chance, John. You couldn't catch him if you tried.
So if John beat you, would you be an?
And that's my psychology, by the way. I wasn't saying those words. I was still crapping myself that John was going to catch me, and that I was going to be in a position where I couldn't run anymore, and then I'd have to walk. And so I'm thinking to myself, run as hard as you can, as fast as you can, for as long as you can. And then hopefully you get so far ahead that if you walk the last 15 minutes or the last half an hour, that's okay. You can stay ahead. But I managed to run for the next hour and a half.
Yeah, right.
So the Revy strips were good.
Would that have cost you, if John had beaten you, would that have cost you qualifying or? No.
Like I'd qualified, but
So how many qualified in the end?
So two of us, three of us.
Right. Okay.
I think just me.
So it was just about winning in the end.
It was just about winning. Look, I ran past Luca Torini, who's a really good friend of mine, and said, he was pinching me on the bum as I was running past him. So initially, for the first 12 hours, I was pinching him on the bum because he was lapping me. And then when I started to lap him, he started pinching my bum. And we're good mates, we've known each other a number of years, and we've run through storms. When we did the Brisbane to Sydney, he ran with me for 3 days through a storm in 2016. So we've been there, we've been at the precipice together a few times, laughing at our own discomfort. And he was pinching my bum. And at one point he said to me, you could win this. And for Luca to say that, his words count double. He's a pretty tough dude. So it's like David Goggins, or name your hero. If your hero if Arnold Schwarzenegger says you can lift it, you can lift it. You're gonna lift it. You know, if Dwayne Johnson says, you know, you're a good actor. That's maybe not a very good example, but if your hero says you can, you can. You know, and I could, and I wanted to do my best. So yeah.
Pain wise during the race, were your feet just red raw with blisters? You know, which muscles started to hurt, all that sort of stuff?
Look, my feet are pretty ugly already. I'm not going to win the ankle bracelet modelling competitions anytime soon. So my feet have always been ugly, and you know, toenails fall off, you know, once every couple of months, and it's, you know, zombie feet. But you know, I've got nice calves. That's my thing. You know, I've got nice calves, and you know, I've got I think I've got quite nice arms. That's always been, like, I'm quite happy with my arms. But yeah, nice feet isn't something that I've got, and that's fine. Like, because they're so ugly, because there's so much tough skin there, you know, they can't get much worse. Like, I don't really get blisters. I had a few little niggles here and there, like a few little blisters and a few little issues, but yeah, my muscles are pretty good. You know, I think I was so happy at the finish line that I didn't really feel any major discomfort. You know, and I've done a lot of body weight training as well for the last 4 or 5 months. You know, during the pandemic, that's something I've started every weekday. I do a 12.5-minute body weight workout, and that's given me a bit more resilience to that kind of stuff. But yeah, like, you know, I think for me in those last couple of hours, and certainly the last hour and a half, when you're completely broken, you can't get any more broken. So you might as well keep pushing, you know. Like, you're not going to feel.
Makes sense to me.
You've hit rock bottom. Welcome to rock bottom. This is as bad as it gets.
Yeah.
There's a real kind of freedom in things not getting any worse. So yeah, like, my feet were a bit sore and they were wet, and you know, the skin on the soles of my feet was white from being in rain for 18 hours. But no long-term damage, just a bit of discomfort, and then straight back for a shower, and you know, straight on social media to speak to my mum, and you know, so I think the physical discomfort that you get from this stuff is nothing compared to, you know, some of the emotional stuff that you go through, and that's much harder to process and to try to overcome.
Post-race meal, did you smash a burger or something?
Oh, come on, Phil. You don't reward with food. You know that. That's not how it works.
Straight into the beer.
Yeah, so what did I have? You know, I did reward a little bit with food. That's an absolute lie. But I had a vegan burger at the hotel Abode in Canberra, and that was pretty goddamn delicious. They gave us a late checkout, and they changed the bed covers. And God bless them, I put vegan burger all over those bed covers, so they probably had to change the bed covers a second time. But yeah, vegan burger with my mate Chris, and trying to process the fact that
chips?
No, chips aren't really. No, I'm not a chip person. I'm more of like a more of an Oliver's kind of guy, you know, but a vegan burrito guy than a chip person. Chips don't really hit the spot for me. Fair enough. Yeah, a lot of hobbling around and spilling food onto the bed covers.
And then Chris had to drive you back to Sydney on Sunday afternoon, I suppose. Were you just knocked out? Get a few hours kip in the car?
I was flying. I was so stoked coming back from that race, and we had some more Rachmaninoff in the car on the way home, and some piano concertos, and good old chat about everything and anything. And yeah, I think Chris did a magnificent job of you know, not having any sleep but still driving 3.5 hours all the way back to Sydney. So yeah, kind of perfect, kind of awesome.
Wow. It's just I felt like the story needed to be done justice in breaking down every element to it, because it's such an amazing story and incredible achievement, Joe. Congratulations.
Thanks, mate.
And thank you very much for sitting down with me today.
Pleasure. Thank you, Phil. This is awesome. Really appreciate it.